Hello Team FD and welcome back to Winners and Losers, where we take you through the highs and the lows of the most recent match week in the Premier League. Joining me today is a grouchy Joe Tomlinson. This is a very serene Zac Gelab. Before we crack through the talking point, our winners, losers and our moment of the week, Joe, do you want to explain to the fine people at home why you might be looking a bit fatigued?
Oh my god, we're shooting this 9:40 in the morning. I've been up since 4 a.m. with plumbing issues in my house. The pipes have just been screaming through the walls. If you're a plumber, please reach out and help me. I don't know what's going on. I don't know how to fix it. I'm so tired I can barely see. And we've got to talk about that show that was United yesterday. This is going to be an ugly one.
Problems with the pipes. I hope that wasn't a euphemism. Joe's house going on like the Chamber of Secrets. Zac, how are you, mate?
Yeah, definitely a lot better than that. That's for sure. I know what that's like. Like a bad sleep can ruin you. It just does the day in from the off. But as for myself, I'm not too bad, thank you, mate. I had a good New Year's, good Christmas. Hope everyone at home did as well.
Yeah, wonderful. Well, very Jekyll and Hyde lineup we've got for you then. Let's crack on with the talking point then, because plenty of football to get through after a very busy festive period. We're going to start with Chelsea versus Liverpool, an absolute corker of a game. They shared the spoils, didn't they, at Stamford Bridge in an enthralling 2-2 draw that saw Tuchel's men temporarily leapfrog Klopp's men into second place. Of course, Chelsea have played a game more. However, the build-up and post-match, to be fair, dominated by one narrative, which was Lukaku spilling the beans to Sky Italia. Now, we're not going to stick on this for too long, but I did want to ask you, Zac, as a Chelsea fan, what did you make of the whole scenario?
Oh, mate, I just don't get what he was doing. It doesn't make sense in my head why he did this interview. What was he thinking? Firstly, I do think it was quite refreshing, actually, to see a player do an interview that isn't, I guess, really careful and it's not guarded by so much different from the agency and the club. That was good. But you can now see why they don't do that, because things like this happen. I just don't see what he wanted from this. Okay, I understand he wanted to smooth things over with Inter Milan fans, but you're now at Chelsea Football Club. You've been basically spent £100 million on you. You're the highest paid player at the club. And you've just come out and basically said, well, I'll be back to Inter Milan soon. I'm not enjoying life here. Some of the comments I just felt were unneeded. I think he could have done that interview and smooth things over with Inter Milan fans without really mentioning Chelsea. The Lautaro Martinez comment is crazy. He goes, oh, Lautaro Martinez, I miss you. Don't worry, don't come to Chelsea. I'll come back to you soon. I'll come back to Inter Milan. What? It's just unneeded. It's unneeded. And since then, I guess he supposedly was surprised that it got such a big response from Chelsea fans and from the footballing world. And during that time as well, where Chelsea were already under a lot of pressure, they hadn't been playing necessarily that well through the whole of December. He'd just come back into the side anyway from COVID and had scored in two goals in 2 games. He'd been influential, to be quite honest, in the Aston Villa game. It finally looked like he was, back in this squad, and he's done that. I just thought it was silly. Obviously, he didn't put out the interview at whatever time, but he recorded the interview. I mean, he went supposedly around Chelsea, around his agents. He got the guy over to his house and to record this interview. I just thought it was really, really odd and surreal. You haven't seen something like that in a long, long time in football.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. I did find it refreshing, but also just because, if it wasn't a Chelsea player and it wasn't my club, I might have sat there a bit more and been like, well, I mean, it is nice to see that. But I just thought it was really, really odd and just a weird thing to do. Yeah. I think every Chelsea fan is justified in their annoyance, especially to only 2-3 months ago, you're sitting in interviews and saying, I'm so happy to be back at Stamford Bridge. I'm loving it. This was the only club I'd leave for. And then 2 months later, you're saying, well, actually, there's only 3 top clubs in the world, and that's Bayern Munich, Barcelona, and Real Madrid. And I would have left for Chelsea. I just thought it was a bit uncalled for really. Like, it just didn't
Right.
make sense, especially when you've just been bought for £100 million.
Well, Zachary, I hope that was therapeutic for you. Got that off your chest, mate. Joe, do you have any more to add on the scenario? Like Zach said, filmed 3 weeks ago. Does that explain some of his behaviour at least?
I mean, to a level. I kind of agree with Jalab. It's pretty bizarre. If you want to smooth things over with Inter Milan fans, that's absolutely fine. Do an interview with Inter Milan about Inter Milan. I don't think you need to be mentioning how it's going at Chelsea and how you're desperate to return to Italy and how Bayern, Real and Barca are the 3 biggest teams in the world. I just leave all that. I think it's really, really bizarre timing, but it doesn't massively surprise me either. It doesn't massively surprise me. Whenever Romelu Lukaku has left the club, he's generally left that club on fairly poor terms, or the fans haven't been that disastrously downstruck by him leaving. Certainly that was the case at Manchester United. I think Inter Milan fans were pretty disappointed and angry with him when he left as well. So I'm not overly surprised that he's trying to do this and like smooth it over if he does want to go back. But overall, I think maybe a little bit of a mountain out of a molehill to some level. I think some of the quotes obviously aren't great, but equally, I think the bigger problem was the timing. Going into the Liverpool game is such a big game for Chelsea that it kind of threw Tuchel under the bus. Like, Tuchel was forced to make a decision, really, about whether or not he keeps him in the squad. Does he drop him from the squad? Then suddenly all the noise becomes about Lukaku rather than the focus going on the game. So I felt really sorry for Thomas Tuchel. This absolutely cucked his preparation for what was one of the biggest games of the season. And Lukaku, I think he needs to do some serious grovelling to the Chelsea fans over the timing, maybe more than the quotes.
Yeah, I mean, listen, he resurrected his career at Inter Milan. It was clearly a very hard time for him. He overcame a lot there, got back to the peak of his powers, to the very top of the game. So you can kind of sympathise with him wanting to smooth things over with the Inter fans, like we said, because the abrupt nature in which he left. Clearly, he wasn't happy, even when he was going through the motions of that £97.5 million move. But he didn't leave it there. He might have got away with it if he left it there, but then he sort of clumsily mentioned Tuchel's tactics, didn't he? And that's what the sort of press honed in on. He said, I don't... What? Sorry, mate, go on.
Sorry, if you say the quote first, you say the quote first. But I don't mind a player like saying that. Oh, you know what? The system, the tactics don't quite suit me exactly. But he just kept going. He just kept going, and it just got worse and worse.
Yeah. Well, the quotes you were talking about were, I'm not happy with the situation. That's only natural. The head coach has decided to play a different system, and I mustn't let up. I need to keep working hard and be professional. I imagine that is because at the time he wasn't playing. Other number 9s were playing. Kai Havertz was rotated in and out the side. Obviously, he did impact the game against Aston Villa and against Brighton, like you said. So maybe if that interview had been done last week or this week, it wouldn't have been quite as fractious. But maybe a perfect storm of stuff that has been blown out of proportion by a very headline-hungry media. And this is what Thomas Tuchel had to say when he was sort of pressed on the matter after the game in a slightly better mood after that 2-goal comeback.
This is our players. There's always a way back, but we will clear this in Cobham behind closed doors. And once we have made a decision, club, coach, then and once Romelu knows, then you will maybe know also.
Has he apologized?
Not before. No, this is not to be discussed now. Let's wait some days and then we give you more information.
Before we move on to our winners then, let's rifle through some quick fire questions about that game because it was so good. Joe, firstly, should Mane have been sent off?
Yes. Absolutely. I don't care what minute of the game that is. I think I know the ruling is that it's reckless, not endangering an opponent, but I think it does endanger the opponent pretty badly. I think the fact that he doesn't catch him with the point of the elbow is the only saving grace in the whole incident. I think there's enough force there to seriously injure Cesar Azpilicueta. It's basically a forearm smash to the face, isn't it? So yeah, I think it's nailed on red.
Okay, Zach, on a more slightly positive note, who's your man of the match?
Kovacic. Could have also been given to N'Golo Kante. Both of them were fantastic. He's not been playing recently for the past 2 months or so with injury, so it was really good to see him back. And just he just had a very Mateo Kovacic performance with a worldie of a goal. And normally he can't shoot to save his life, so it was very surprising.
No, I was going to say very rarely does he score, but when he does, it's often special.
Yeah.
Joseph, do you think Lukaku will be back for the cup game tomorrow against Spurs, just to kind of nip this in the bud? EFL Cup, perfect opportunity, yay or nay?
He'll be back in the squad. I think he might be on the bench. I think it'll be a slow ease back after those sort of repairing talks that they supposedly had yesterday, where Lukaku apologised and seemed to come into the boardroom with his tail between his legs.
Yeah, okay. Zach, finally, Chelsea have Manchester City on the 15th of Jan. A must-win for their title ambitions at this point. City starting to put together what looks like an unassailable lead.
I mean, title ambitions is kind, I think. I feel like it's probably already gone. But yeah, no, look, a must win anyway. Like, now Chelsea need to get this second spot in the table. Like, that would be an unreal move from last year. Obviously, just about making the 4th spot. If they can now, try and put pressure on City and slip up. Obviously, City against Arsenal, which we'll get onto in a bit. I think there's a chance. There's definitely a chance. It's not gone yet, but beating them on the 15th would help massively.
Okay, fair play. Have Chelsea's title ambitions slipped between their fingers? Let us know in the comments below. But now is the perfect time, it would seem, to move on to our winners, because they are, of course, Manchester City, and this comes from @Aiden_1847. And it did take a penalty, a red card, and a last gasp winner to overcome a very stubborn Arsenal at the Emirates. Very well-oiled Arsenal, actually, I'm going to say, not stubborn. But when they did, making it 11 wins in a row on a domestic front. But for 60 minutes, the Gunners did go toe-to-toe with the Citizens in a fashion that only Liverpool and Leipzig really have managed against them this season. So unsurprising that the majority of you on Twitter wanted us to talk about Arsenal's improvement over City's dominance. But before we do move on to the Gunners, I think it's only right that we talk about the match winner in this game, 25-year-old Spaniard Rodri, who has been the heart of Manchester City, at the heart of everything that they've done well in the last month or so. Of course, missed a couple games through injury, but back to his best in this fixture. Do you think he can catch Bernardo Silva as City's player of the year in another excellent campaign, Joseph?
I think it'll be tough. Because Bernardo Silva has just been outrageous. I also think Joao Cancelo's in with a shout here too. But yeah, Rodri, just an utter metronome in midfield. I remember maybe 12 months ago conversations taking place about whether or not they needed to replace him, whether or not he was the heir to Fernandinho's throne. He right now is just unbeatable in the middle of the park. He just pins teams in single-handedly. You cannot get out of your own half when Rodri's playing, which I think Arsenal did extremely effectively. So there's a couple of Arsenal midfielders I'm sure we're going to talk about in this game after a little interview, but Rodri is an absolute machine. However, Arsenal on the day were sensational, I thought.
Yeah, and Pep Guardiola agreed as much, Joseph.
It's the best Arsenal for the last 4 or 5 years. So it's not secret. It's now top 4. And the energy they are playing in, the good ideas that Mikel have, and to settle something you need time. And I had the feeling not change just the club, the team, like it's obvious. Always he changed the club. I'm pretty sure he fought for many things that were installed in Arsenal. Maybe it was not good, and he step by step is doing well. So, and it will be, maybe we're going to face right now one or two best teams in the Premier League right now.
Let's talk Arsenal then, Joseph, because they were hammered in their previous encounter against Manchester City 5-0. Now, it's clear they've improved significantly since then, but in what way, mate?
I mean, most notably, I thought on the weekend, of course, in the 5-0, Thomas Partey wasn't available, was he? And he was available this weekend, and I thought he was the most outstanding player on the pitch. But Arsenal as a whole are just making strides in the right direction. I think they've got a really cohesive brand of football. You can see exactly what they're trying to do out on the pitch. The defence looks pretty damn solid, and then going forward, they've got these young, exciting, attacking players that at any moment seem to be able to produce some brilliance. So Arsenal fans have plenty to look forward to, I think. But Thomas Partey, for me, is probably the key reason that Arsenal were able to maintain sort of pace with Manchester City. I do think Man City had quite an off day. I don't think they were up to their usual high standards. And I think after the game, Pep kind of said as much, that they were mentally fatigued, they were physically fatigued. But Arsenal, I really think, stand a great chance of getting top 4 now without European football, with a squad all pulling in the right direction. I think they should probably be favourites for that 4th spot right now.
Zach, in the last couple of winners and losers, we've been bigging up Arsenal's front 4, but it was that, not the double pivot, it was Thomas Partey that shined in this game. What did you make of his performance, and do you share Joe's optimism about Arsenal finishing in the top 4?
Yeah, he was an all-action midfielder. I think it was probably his best game we've seen in an Arsenal shirt since he signed for the club. I think for a little while we felt like he hasn't quite reached the level we expected him to. But this game against Man City, he really did. He was brilliant defensively, carried the ball really, really well, really transitioned defence into attack fantastically. Arsenal were really, really good for those 60 minutes, man. Every single player out there. I think Tomiyasu needs a shout as well. Kept Sterling at bay fantastically too. Made it really, really difficult to get past him and defended him fantastically. He's also been another brilliant signing. To be honest, all of Arsenal's signings since the summer have really gone on to do really well. I also think they've got a fantastic chance of top 4 if they keep going in this way and they keep battling it out. Obviously now Partey is going to the African Cup of Nations, so they're going to be missing him, that's for sure, during January. But a lot of the top teams will be missing a few of their key players because of that. I just thought Arsenal may have lost their heads a little bit in that last half an hour. Obviously they deserved a penalty in that first half, which was unfortunately not given. And then Gabriel, I don't know if that's inexperience.
What's he doing, man? What's he doing?
Or what, but just being like... So apparently he didn't get the first yellow card for scuffing it. It was apparently like dissent or something like that to the referee. But then to do that challenge later on Gabriel Jesus, literally like a couple of minutes later, it's just silly. It's just really, really silly.
Awful.
And then from there, it made it a mountain to come back from. But like apart from that, the first 60 minutes, if you're an Arsenal fan, I think you would have, whatever the score was in that game, you left it at least being happy, even though you did lose.
Yeah, visible progress, even if some rashness from Xhaka, from Gabriel Magalhaes did send things awry for sure. Yeah, Thomas Partey's numbers, if you're interested, 9 of 14 ground duels won, completed 5 dribbles from 6 attempted, and completed 4 tackles from 5 attempted either. So yeah, most things he did absolutely spot on. And that is the opposite to what Manchester United did, wasn't it? Everything went Pete Tong. Let's move on to them then. They are, of course, our losers after that shocking performance against Wolves. This comes from I'm Ganesha. Thank you for sending that in, my friend. Now, Joe, you've been somewhat unfairly, I would say, criticised of being camera shy after terrible Manchester United performances, despite the fact that we've done at least 20 episodes of winners and losers, absolutely slating them in the last 18 months. But here you are after an absolute stinker. So I want your top 3 things that went wrong in this game.
3 is an impossible task. How do I narrow it down to 3? We were just absolutely turgid, man. Like, so bad. So bad. And it's been that way just for so long now. It's so boring watching Manchester United. You can just see exactly what's going to happen. It's written on the wall, isn't it? I think I missed the first 45 minutes yesterday, actually, and I came in at half-time. I watched about 10 minutes, and I texted one of my friends who's a Man United fan and said, we're going to lose this 1-0. We couldn't get the ball. We can't progress the ball through the midfield at all. We are so easy to attack on the transition. It's comical. We can't keep the ball in any way. We can't pass to each other, which is really alarming. The first touches are an absolute shambles. The tactics don't suit the players that we've got available at all. There's no pressing. This famous pressing system that Rangnick was famed for, I've not seen it other than the first 45 minutes against Crystal Palace in his opening game. It's just about as bad as it's possible to be, and this is why I was so unconvinced about an interim. Because if the interim starts to struggle, what do you do?
This was his first loss, wasn't it? But the criticism levelled at Manchester United has been more about the performances than the results in recent weeks.
And the players. The players need some flack, mate. The players need some flack because the performances are an absolute disgrace to the shirt from some of them. Yeah. They can't even pass the ball 10 yards to each other. There's sloppy passes. There's no chance creation or patterns of play in the final third. We've got Cristiano Ronaldo, maybe one of the most aerially dominant number 9s in world football historically. We've got Cavani, who loves crossing the box, and we can't cross the ball, which is not a great start. We've got players miss-kicking the ball out for goal kicks consistently. We've got the midfield passing backwards and sideways, but are allergic to passing through the lines. We can't take anyone on in one-on-one. I'm just tired. I'm honestly tired. I don't want to just go on a rant because it's just like the same thing over and over, but
well, let's make
United
it a bit more
are in
specific
massive trouble, mate. We're in massive trouble.
Let's make it more specific, because you did just mention there early on in the rant, I must say, that there are a lot of players who aren't suited to the system that he's trying to deploy, and that's how I felt watching it last night. It was like when you're 14 and you add a manager on Football Manager and you shove everyone to the side so you can win 24-0 and just sort of canter down the middle. It felt like Manchester United were trying to play wide. They didn't have the ability to play through the middle. After a little while, I thought Scott McTominay was hiding in that number 6 position as someone they didn't really feel confident picking the ball up. But then you sort of see Luke Shaw's comments after the game saying that when the defence had it, maybe when Matic and McTominay had it, that people were hiding. There weren't a lot of options out there.
The dressing room's clearly split, mate.
Yeah,
the dressing
they couldn't
room's clearly got
restrain.
massive issues behind the scenes. I think there's players clearly not getting on. I thought some of those Luke Shaw quotes were really damning about, not having options and didn't feeling like they were together and stuff like that. And that's just never good to hear, is it? That extremely worries me.
This is like this must be the equivalent for you as Jalab sort of watching the Lukaku interview unfurl. It's like morbidly fascinating if you're a fan of that team, and just fascinating generally if you're not. But Luke Shaw did say first half we didn't have many options, and I didn't feel like we were all there together. Before he sort of bookended that interview with, I hope the manager brings some new ideas to training this week.
Brilliant.
I actually don't think he meant that to sound as critical as Rangnick as I've just made it. But hey ho. I mean, Zach, reading between the lines, what do you think he means? Is it as simple as a split in the dressing room, or? I
think there's a few different things. I think it is that. I think it's such a different way to what it was under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer with Ralph. Like, it's such a completely. You've gone from a guy who's a man manager to a guy who is so. He loves the tactical side of the game and probably training sessions where and the way they want them to play football, which is so much different. You can see them struggling. Like, no one quite knows what to do. Look, when Phil Jones hasn't played a game, hasn't started a Man United game in 2 years, is your best player against Wolves. I think it says a lot about the current side. It's like no one quite understands their job. No one quite, like, you could tell they're missing a number 8 to kind of progress play. I still feel so bad for Donny van der Beek and how he still can't even get into this side when things are this bad. I think it's
basic errors though, mate, as well. Like, these players, they're good footballers and they're just making stupid mistakes. Like, it's just endless turnovers of possession because they can't pass to each other. And I know that we can come back and blame the system and we can blame the tactics and stuff, but some of the quality out there is embarrassing at times.
Some of the ball retention was really, really poor.
Yeah,
and I don't
really
want to drag McTominay through the mud, because I think he's a very honest player and applies himself at all times. But some of the execution of, like, his passing, even Cavani as well, Ronaldo as well in the final third, Sancho. Yeah,
Cavani was making tackles on the edge of his box. And I was like, you're the striker here that needs to be getting yourself in the box, and you're winning the ball back on the edge of yours. I just didn't understand what was happening at times. It was almost as if, like, 11 people have come together on a random Saturday, and it's like no one knows each other, no one knows each other's ability, and it's just like, let's kick a ball about.
I'm not sure the 4-2-2-2 works either. Like, for this set of players, I think it's causing more damage than it is doing good at this stage. I know that that's something that obviously Ralph has worked on historically. He's played that, but I actually don't think it suits Manchester United particularly well with this set of players. I don't think you've got the 2 6s of a high enough quality to be able to play that system that are dynamic enough.
One quick one.
I agree. I completely agree.
Happened?
Sorry, what were we going to say, Jalab?
What's happened to Marcus Rashford? Honestly, that he came on and
he's struggling. He's just got no confidence
like a
at all.
completely different player. There was one pass in particular I remember where United were on the counter attack, and he had so much room here to make it's not a difficult pass. Like, I honestly think any of us could do it, if I'm being quite honest.
But I think just going back to what Joe was saying, I think Marcus Rashford, when he comes on in that sort of number 10 position, it's an alien concept to him, isn't it? He's gone from insisting he wanted to play down the middle 18 months ago to playing well on the left wing under Ole, to now sort of playing a role that requires him to come a little bit more central. It's it must be difficult for him. Like Joe said, no real thoroughbred number 6s. Like I tweeted after the game, without Nemanja Matic, Manchester United would have been in this game, and that is not a great situation to be in. Any final words before we end on a positive note, Tomlinson?
There's no positives there, mate. We just got to get to June. We just got to get to June, survive, mate, and hope for a miracle. I'm not going to lie at this stage. The worst thing is I just can't stand watching us. Like, I just can't. I get no enjoyment. It's not even as if, we're going out there and we're losing like 3-2 and it's like United at least flying forward. It's so boring. The football is just crap to watch. I have no enjoyment. I just want to get to June, mate. To be honest
Patrick Van Straten.
Yeah. Still need that CDM. Still need that number 6. Probably need like a lights out 8 to play this system as well. Yeah, Bruno Fernandes is the only real 8 in the squad, isn't he? And more often than not, that 4-2-2-2 requires sort of 2 of them who can also kind of be number 10s as well, I guess. But lots to work on for Ralf Rangnick. Not expecting him to get it right within 2 to 3 weeks. Of course,
exactly.
They didn't train
and he needs
for
6 months, doesn't he? That's the problem.
Yeah. So you probably would level more criticism at the players at current, but one player who deserves an awful lot of praise is Phil Jones, and this is what Luke Shaw had to say on him after the game.
One thing I will say is Phil Jones should be proud of himself. I think, he's been criticised for a number of years, constantly. People always getting at him, but he stuck by it. He's so professional, trained so hard, and he got his chance tonight. And I think he was phenomenal. And I think he needs a lot of respect for that for tonight, because he was out for over a year, and this is really his first big game back, and he was exceptional. And I'm obviously very happy for him for what he's been through, and he's a really good lad, and he deserves it. So I just want to say, for Phil Jones, keep going.
Let's round the show off then with our moments of the week, and we have that Kovacic goal from Mr. Armchair Fan. Brave Huss has also suggested Bielsa's long hug with his assistant in that 3-1 victory over Burnley, and I've left a space open for you pair to bring your own to the table. So, either bring your own or go for one of them. What are you saying, Zacharias?
Off the top of my head, I can't think of another one, so I'll take the Kovacic one. Lovely goal. As you said earlier, Kovacic only seems to score bangers when he does, and it's from outside the box every single time. And it's nice technique, obviously jumping backwards, a little kind of like a scissor kick, and it's a lovely finish. God knows, if that hadn't gone in, what that score could have been in the end for the Chelsea game.
Yeah, fair. Joseph?
Do you know what? I'm going to pick Phil Jones' comeback as my moment of the weekend.
Yeah.
Just 2 years out. He struggled so badly, hasn't he, with injuries, and that was actually delightful to see him come back.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go for that as well, Tomlinson. I think that is the correct choice. Let us know yours in the comments below. That is it for this week's episode of Winners and Losers. Get involved in the comments, like I said. Make sure you subscribe to the channel with notifications on. And do we have anything we'd like to plug across the Football Daily universe, Zach?
Well, why not make sure if you haven't already, check out our Christmas content. Mean Tweets went out on Christmas Day, I think, or Boxing Day, something like that. And also the Football Pyramid returned on EFD, where I took on Chris Hamill. And it was close. Very close.
Joe, you got anything for us?
Why not go and watch We Need to Talk from Friday, when I looked at one player each club should sign in the January window.
Lovely stuff. All right, bye then, guys. See you next week.